This episode begins with me posing a series of establishing questions to the group. I have a rough idea of what the mission is all about and how I think it will progress, but the establishing questions allow the players to personalize the adventure through their answers. It's a hallmark of my GMing style, and it helps create a story that has a basic narrative consistency, but with enough player input to keep things fresh and exciting. One other note. Toward the end of this episode, we begin to see the players really hitting their rhythm in terms of interacting with each other, and it's really fun to see how that group dynamic starts to develop. Enjoy.
Yes, ma'am. And I know why you asked me.
She doesn't seem like she wants to get she doesn't want to verbalize the specifics, but she's made it really clear to you what she wants you to do, right?
Of course.
And so we'll leave it at that for now. We'll come back. You guys can have a scene at Lockhaven, that's fine, but I want to take a break before then. But right now, I want to ask you guys some questions to think about. I don't need the answers straight away when we get back, but I just want you to be thinking about these things. So we're going to Ivydale, then to Ivydale, then to Appleloft, then to Elmos, and then to Spruce Tuck, okay? And then from Spruce Tuck to the border. Bart, the stretch of road from Ivydale to Elmos is pretty long, right? I mean, Appleloft's in the middle, but it's a big, long stretch, okay, of trail. What are you most concerned about running into? What are you going to try to avoid? Thran, your parents are very famous, or they are famed chemists in Spruce Tuck, okay? They're legendary chemists, very smart, very sciencey. They are the cream of Mousedom's intellectual crop, right? Very professorial, right? Imagine like just a very professorial couple. I think that's just an interesting angle. But also, I think they supplied you with a real particular batch of some sort of chemical or liquid or something. They gave it to you when you first joined up with the guard years ago, okay? And you've never used it. And I'd like to know what it is and why you haven't used it, what it does, that kind of thing, okay? For Fergus, I think someone lives in Appleloft who you care about very much. Tell us, I want to know who that is. Kelsey. I want to know, I think you have a favorite pub in Ivydale. Ivydale is the closest city to Lockhaven. I think you have a favorite pub in Ivydale, and I'd like to know one of your favorite memories from your time at that particular pub. Okay.
Okay.
You guys will go it's assumed that you guys are getting supplies and getting everything you need ready to go to journey out initially to Ivydale, right? You are supplied with gabcroon, which is a bread that they eat. It's like a dense bread with seeds and fruits and nuts. Go around the table. Is there anything you want to do in Lockhaven before we move out, or are there any scenes you want to have? If you haven't done so already, start paying attention to directives. That's pretty important. And in the start of session 2, we'll actually have a discussion about the specific directives and maybe scenes we can set up to maybe try to hit some of them, or at least ideas for scenes. But for now, just kind of keep abreast of them. There are so many that it would be hard not to hit at least one of them during a session. When I played this last time, it was happening just by accident. So in any case, Ron, what about you? Anything you want to do in Lockhaven before we set out?
Maybe. So you asked us to have some questions and think about the answers for them. And then I was thinking about the issue of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have come up with a way. I don't know.
Okay. Well, spring it on us. What do you think?
Okay. So I think that my parents have been working on this compound that it would be very important if it worked for the village that I grew up in.
Well, Spruce Tuck is a big city, but yeah.
Okay, so I grew up in Spruce Tuck.
Yeah, they're chemists in Spruce Tuck. Yeah.
In Spruce Tuck. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe where they grew up then.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
It's like reptile imprinting drug. So if you can find a reptile young and administer this to it, it will recognize you and what you look like as what it is.
Okay.
So for mice, if you do that to certain reptiles, then they wouldn't eat you.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's interesting.
But they gave it to me, and they haven't used it. They thought that I might need it while I was out there, in war or something. But when I think about that now, I think that maybe there's a way that I could try and get this on administer to some lizards and use them as transportation as they are just waking up from their hibernation.
Okay, that sounds like it could be a good something that you guys like scavenge for or go search for specifically while you're out on the road. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. Awesome, sounds good to me. Is there any other preparations you want to make in Lockhaven before we head out?
I don't think so.
Okay. It's assumed that the basics are all covered. So
yeah,
cool. Bart, what about you? I don't need the answer to your question yet, Bart. We'll deal with that when we get there. But I'm just curious, like anything you want to do in Lockhaven before we head out?
Are we able to get another weapon on top of the bow? Can I get like a sword as well?
I don't think like per the rules of the Woodlands you can. I think that's supposed to be like a creative constraint on your play, right? Like to make use of what you've got, right? But that said, I mean, I think like knives are okay, little daggers or something. You guys would probably all have one of those or more. What'd you have in mind?
Yeah, I just wanted a sword too. I just didn't know if it was like mechanically.
I think you're just supposed to have one. Yeah, you get your. Well, it says weapon of choice. It doesn't mean it's like you don't have other weapons, I suppose. Let's see if there's a move for like requisitioning. You can requisition things. So.
And the one time you let us be in a town, what happens? We go shopping.
Oh yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, requisition supplies.
Is that a thing? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you can try it. You want to try it?
Sure. Yeah, I guess so. Roll plus focus.
All right, go for it.
7.
7. Okay, on a 7 to 9, what you're after is within reach, but has serious strings attached. Okay, let's just do that scene. Like, so you're going to like the Lockhaven blacksmith or whatever.
Yeah, it's like it must be quite early because it's before we like even set out on the town. So maybe the sun's just rising or something like that, and I make my way to the marketplace.
Dealing with a blacksmith named Pumpkin, and we'll cope with Pumpkin in a minute, but let's just put a pin in that for now. I want to find out what everybody else is doing first. Kelsey, what about you?
I was going to ask Fergus what happened, in that conversation that I wasn't allowed to listen to.
There are some things that are not intended for the youth, and it was I served with the matriarch during the war, and she just had some cautions for me.
I mean, okay. But there's nothing dangerous on the road or anything that I should be, like...
Of course there is! What are you thinking about?
It's filled with danger.
I mean specific things.
Well, specifically, you need to watch what you're doing. Don't you know? Maybe you shouldn't come along. Maybe I'll go talk to the matriarch and see if, well, yeah.
Fergus is rough.
Do you think you're up for this?
I just sort of look at him like, just give him this sort of what expression.
I mean, if you're not up for it, I can understand, and we can see about seeing if someone else can't take your place.
Who's your mentor, Kelsey?
Barth.
Oh, Barth.
Oh, Barth. Barth is your mentor. Okay. Yeah. So this is happening while Barth, I guess, is going to get a sword. This conversation. Because Barth has a lot on the line, like in terms of like graduating you, right? Like it's considered a mark against him if you don't get your cloak eventually, right?
Yeah, I think I will be walking with Bart while he's trying to get a sword, and we'll be chatting about that.
That's cool. We'll have that scene. We'll break to that in a second. So, Fergus and Kelsey, you guys want to keep going with this?
I'll just put up my hands and say, I'll just trust you to let me know things when I need to know them.
Okay. And Fergus basically just kind of starts grumbling kind of under his breath, half-heard words, and kind of moves off on his staff, leaning on it heavily. Young these days, get off my lawn.
Good.
I sigh.
So basically, if you don't mind, I'd like to do something while we're still in Lockhaven. You see me kind of, slowly move down the street, and I, turn a couple of corners, and it looks like maybe I've got a purpose after watching for a little while. And then I stop, and I kind of straighten up, and I knock on a door with this loud pounding. There's no answer, and it takes a little while. And loud pounding, and this old, grizzled, mouse answers the door, and, looks like it's still asleep and everything. And I hand over like a letter that has a wax seal on it. And I say, you know what to do if I don't come back. He kind of looks at me a little bit startled, and then I kind of turn back, slump, and kind of staff on down the road.
I am 300% following him, by the way.
Okay, sweet.
Well, so that might be a good follow-up scene. Like, you see him deliver this letter, right, Kelsey? Maybe it's something you can confront him about later.
I have a move about that too, actually.
What is it?
It's small and quiet. When you do something in secret, roll with nature. On 10 plus, nobody notices what you're doing. On a 7 to 9, no one notices you, but something else goes wrong. On a miss, the wrong guys catch you in the act. I got a 9. Cool.
No one sees you, but something unrelated goes wrong. We'll think about that for a minute. Let's go back to Bart and Thrawn. Thrawn, you said you were just accompanying Bart to go see Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have that scene.
So yeah, on the way to requisition some more equipment. I mean, we'll say I'm just like getting the basic stores, but he's going to get whatever. We're just having a conversation about your recruit, Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that your training is going, Bart?
So I think she's a rough around the edges, but she's coming along. Like, do you remember that time when we got in a fight with that wolf and barely escaped? I mean, look at us now. She hasn't done that yet.
It's true. This mission might be just the thing to show her what we really do around here. It's all been a bit sunshine and gumdrops lately. We need something. We need something that's going to test the mettle of her as a new recruit. But do you think that you are the right kind of mentor for her? It seems you two both you both have the same frolic in you, if you know what I mean.
That is precisely why we're good for each other.
Well, I don't want to be, you know that I appreciate, like, you know, a good little romp in the forest, checking things out, finding whatever we can out there as much as the next mouse, but I can't have a flighty, whimsical recruit.
Well, I think that we'll both take our duties seriously, but when the time is right for fun, we'll have it, unlike you all.
Indeed.
I slap him on the back, and then I'm like, I want to get his sword, and my eyes are like full of mirth, and I like scuttle off.
You'll get to Pumpkin, and we'll deal with Pumpkin in a second. Let's go back to Kelsey. So Kelsey, you, per the roles established, that you saw Fergus go to some mysterious mouse in Lockhaven and give him a letter that was sealed, and you now have that information. You can use it in a later scene. Something goes wrong, though. I think you're so excited and intrigued by what's going on with Fergus that you forgot to perform a key duty that you're responsible for the patrol, which is they left you they basically gave you a duty they thought you could handle, which was to go get the supply of Gabcroon. Gabcroon is the bread that you eat on the road. Okay, and I think you forget, and you guys are going to get out the wilderness with no Gabcroon, thereby leaving everybody hungry. So if they don't find something else if they don't forage something else. Let's go back to Thrawn and Bart for just a minute. So you get to Pumpkin. Pumpkin is a very, very surly mouse. Okay, he's called Pumpkin almost like as a joke because he's a curmudgeon. Okay, and he's called Pumpkin because he's round and fat and orange. Okay, he has orange fur, and he's there and he's like, you know, he's like dealing with, mice bother him constantly, right? Like guard mice, it is a thing that like they go there like, oh, can you bang out the, you know, my sword's bent, can you bang that out, or, you know, straighten it out, or, oh, I need this, I need that, I need a dagger, like, when are we going to get a shield? And Pumpkin's like, what do you need a shield for? We're not in the middle of a war anymore. You know, like it's all just kind of all that, right? And you guys are there, and Pumpkin's just sent away a few callers, and he looks up at you and he's like, well, what is it?
Well, I just came to visit the most important guard mice of them all, of course. How are you today, Pumpkin?
He's like, Bartholomew, I don't need your glad handing and your brown nosing. Just cut to the chase. What is it?
Well, in that case, I guess I'll just take a sword.
You think it's that easy? Do you think I could just produce a sword and send you out? I mean, everyone, these things are we have to account for them. I have ledgers. I have books. I have responsibilities. I have to know who has what. I can't just wrangle up a sword to send. Everyone has. You've got a bow on your back. What do you need a sword for?
I need a sword because who knows what lurks beyond, and I let it like trail off dramatically. Perhaps I could fetch you something on my travels, something that is, indigenous to the region. I could fetch you some very nice berries from the forest.
He looks up at you. He's covered in soot. His orange fur is like stained with soot. And he kind of looks around and he's like, berries? What kind of berries do you hope to get this time of year?
I think the question is, what kind of berries do you hope to get, Pumpkin?
He says, I might be able to get a sword for you, but you've got to do a favor for me. And then he like pulls you in so that Thrawn can't hear, right? He's got so much to show you. I hear your patrol is going to be going through Appleloft, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I have a lady friend in Appleloft.
Of course you do.
Her name's Marigold.
And Thrawn overhears it and kind of scoffs.
Her name's Marigold, and I've been courting her for some time, and she's been, well, not so receptive to my entreaties. But I continue to try. I continue to try to win her over, and I was hoping that maybe you could deliver this to her. And he gives you like a little blacksmith like statue or like little toy or ornament of a cricket, like a little metal cricket. And he says, he's like, make this count, Bart.
I will do as you say.
I don't mean for you just to deliver this to Marigold. You're a very, very charismatic mouse. Make my case.
I will sling together words like the poets of but long before.
Right. And he goes and gets you a sword, and makes a note in the books, and you're good to go. So
I'm super happy.
Let's just get back to Ferguson. Fergus, do you have anything you want to do before we head out to anything else? Are we all good to go?
No, I'm good.
All right. Everybody all cool, ready to head out to Ivydale to start. You're all going to discover in the middle of the journey that you have no food, so we'll get to that. But to start, we have a move at the top of the move sheet called Set Out into the Wilds. You and your fellow wardens set out into the wilds. You decide who will be the trailblazer, who will be the navigator, and who will be the lookout. And you each roll the appropriate stat. On a 10 plus, it all goes great, and you add one to the warden pool. The warden pool, we're going to call it the mouse guard pool or the guard pool. Basically, that starts at 1, and you can use the pool to help other mice. So whenever like another mouse like needs there's a help move that you can either roll with, or you can spend the warden pool, and it kind of represents like your sort of like it's an abstraction of like your preparation and also your just like your kind of esprit de corps and your morale, right? So it kind of represents, just makes you it's like you're just more effective essentially. It's an abstraction of all those things, and you can kind of narrate how when you spend it, like how it's helping or whatever. But
yeah, can I order out? Can I take charge and give you all orders as to what I want you to do?
You are the leader, Thrawn. You guys can have that scene. In fact, just maybe like you're just outside of Lockhaven at this point. Like you're kind of, so you're just outside of Lockhaven. Let me paint the scene. You're just outside of Lockhaven. You're just now getting on the road. This is a mess because it's still really, really early spring, effectively late winter, and a lot of the trails have been covered over with snow or have been made muddy, and or like runoff from melted snow has ruined the trails. So the trails are not as clearly marked as they are like by summer, right? It's still a little cold, it's still quite wet, and there's still patches of snow all over the place. Okay.
I like circle this all around, and I look that everyone's got their packs and their weapons. And I admire that one of us has managed to acquire 2 weapons. And
It's very resourceful.
well done, Bart. Now, I think that it would be most prudent if, Bart, you were to trailblaze for us. You have the most woodcraft in that regard. This is a little bit different of season than we would be traveling. And Fergus, I think that if you will scout any dangers for us, that will be most effective. And Kelsey, you went and got the whatever that kind of bread is called. So just keep an eye on that. Be quartermaster for us, and walk with me.
No, there's no quartermaster. It's navigator, lookout, and trailblazer. So.
Navigator, lookout, and trail. Okay, so
Like-
trailblazer, Bart. Okay,
Do we need a navigator?
we need a navigator. Well, then Fergus, you'd be the navigator because you have the most time on these roads, and Kelsey, you can keep your eyes open.
So
Right.
Kelsey's the lookout.
Yes, of course.
Fergus is the navigator, and Bart is the trailblazer.
And I lean in close to Kelsey and I say, and there's something unusual that I want you to be on the lookout for if you can.
I lean in.
See if you spot any lizards that might just be waking up, slow to movement as it's cold.
Do you mean lizards, like, or like lizards? I say, like, gesturing wider and wider.
And I gesture at the distance between Bart and Fergus, which is like, 3 mice lengths. And I'm like, lizards.
Eyebrows up, ears back. Okay.
Don't approach them. Just let me know if you find them.
Oh yeah, not a chance.
Well done.
Let's have a trailblazer roll.
And that's the one that you give us all a bonus, right? Bart?
Yeah, it says, like the back of my paw, when you act as a trailblazer while setting out into the wilds, you treat a miss as 7 to 9, and all others get +1 to their rolls.
Okay.
Pretty good. Okay, so
It's your jam.
yeah, it's my thing.
6.
So you're sitting on 6 right now? Okay, so you might get that +1 from him, hopefully.
Nope, that's after.
Oh, that's if you get the +1.
I got a 7.
You managed to hit one of us that actually had a bonus to their roll, and Fergus didn't need it. So, way to go, leader.
All right. So what was our? So Fergus got the 10 plus. That's good. So Fergus, you get a 10 plus, and you get to add to the pool, guard pool. Change that to guard pool. Since you got a 10 plus, and you're the navigator, I'd like to know a couple things. First thing I'd like to know is, what is the principal feature in the geography that you are sort of navigating by, either in the sky or in the terrain? And then on top of that, for the warden pool, I'd like to just know, like, kind of how does your exceptional navigating skills make this job that much easier?
Yeah. So basically, the way this goes is, I see Thrawn, giving out the jobs to everyone, and he doesn't assign one to himself. And I'm like, not leading by example. And I kind of, we kind of walk off in the direction. The notable thing that we're doing is we're actually following some of the trails are especially muddy in the direction that we're going, because we're following the way that the water goes. We're going to Ivydale first. And Ivydale, the snows melt off, and the ivy grows so much in Ivydale because of the water and where the snows kind of come into the valley. So I know that as long as we continue to follow the direction of the water as the snow melts, that would be the quickest way to Ivydale.
Nice. Thank you.
But the whole time I'm grumbling and just,
Bart, you get a 7 to 9. You have a hard time keeping up, and I'll tell you how this affects you on the journey. Here's what I think. I think, like, maybe you aren't so accustomed to striking trails this early in the spring or this late in the winter, if you wish. I think it's I think you're going ahead of the group. You're having to like clear patches of snow and cold refuse off the trail. You're having to like dig around through the brush to find the trail. All that stuff's going on. I think I'm going to give you a condition. You're going to take...
You're saying it's hard to blaze right now?
Yeah.
With everything so damp, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to give you tired. I just think like you're just exhausted. Like this is just a much harder like job than you thought it was going to be. Thrawn's, busy giving orders, and Kelsey's busy looking for lizards. And you're doing the hard work of having to clear the trail. And
yeah, I picture all this like brush, and I'm like putting my back into it with and like moving it and stuff, and then the whole time Fergus is just like, it's that way.
Exactly.
Right.
Thanks. Awesome. Good. Okay, so Kelsey, you got a miss, right?
Yep, full on miss.
Let's talk about lizards, reptiles. Let's say, maybe not lizards so much. At a certain point, you're all stopping to. It's like I think it's like really really late in the day. Or we'll say sundown even. It's like a little bit longer than a day's journey to Ivydale, and you're stopping to rest and to eat. This is when you'll discover that you don't have your Gabcroon, which is a problem. You're exhausted. You're particularly exhausted, Bart. And Kelsey, pass out the food.
I open my pack and reach in there and kind of tilt my head and then like stuff my entire face in there.
Hey, do we have like any food? Like, no, we have nothing.
You have nothing. That was her only job during preparations, was to go get the bread.
I mean, I guess you might have like your little snacks that you brought with you that you've probably already eaten.
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay if I pulled Kelsey aside and was asking if they had found any reptiles. And if you disclosed to me that you have no food, I would give up like any snacks or anything that I had to try and convince the group that we do not in fact miss all of that food. Like it's not missing for at least one more day.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, maybe
you're just saving face at this point.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be the most you'd be doing is saving face, but I'm not even sure like what the value in that is. It's going to be really obvious really fast that Kelsey didn't get the goddamn bread, right? It's going to be,
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be like super obvious super quickly that her one job she kind of failed at, right? As a point of order, like I think like it would be really, really obvious. Like this is the time when you sit down and you start eating bread, right? And there is none. So
I think before you look for it, I like collapse onto the floor and I'm like, oh, I'm so hungry. And then like after we realize that you don't have the bread, I'm like, I couldn't eat a bite anyway.
Yeah, there's like I've basically upended myself into my bag and like you just see my legs and my tail like kicking about, and then I pull myself out and I just sigh. I don't know what happened. But I don't have the bread. I've got the water. I've got the
water is plentiful. There's melting snow everywhere.
Yeah, I'm like upending my boot, pouring out water.
It's like water everywhere.
You had very simple task. I don't know what you got up to instead of your very simple task. We already paid for the bread. They already made the bread. So I guess they are eating the bread back in the city where it's warm and dry. Now tell me, Tenderpaw, did you at least tend to your duties today and make sure there was nothing that we needed to be on the lookout for out there?
Yes, I was on the lookout. I kept, I was looking around while Fergus was, trekking the streams and the trails and all of that, and I didn't see anything, trying to ambush us or anything. So yeah, we made it here. We made it to camp just fine.
So Fergus kind of sits down on a rock and just kind of shakes his head, grumbles a little bit, pulls out his pipe and stuffs it full and everything, and lights it. Just
early in the morning, we'll just go foraging. It'll be fine.
Bart's very optimistic. He's an optimistic view. Well, Thrawn, this is Bart. This is Bart's tenderpaw. I mean, like, come on. Ultimately, truly, it's Bart's responsibility, right?
Yeah.
There's only one person we know who isn't at fault, and that's Fergus.
Well, he kind of is, because he was doing clandestine activities. That's why you forgot in the first place. So.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it's totally his fault. No, it's never his fault.
While you guys in the middle of this conversation, you hear a very, very distinct sound just like nearby. Sound.